So let's get started. Thank you all for joining on this CRM launch webinar. The agenda, we're going to talk firstly of the CRM features overview. I want to give you a high level, everything that LePage CRM has to offer so that you know it. Then we'll get into the system itself, and I want to show you how the system looks, how you set it up, and how you do some desktop integration, how the contacts are handled. Of course, that's one of the biggest things when we talk about CRM is about contacts themselves. I want to talk about increasing your revenue. Our action plans, our LePage action plans that we have built into the CRM so that you can, again, leverage your past clients and your sphere of influence and really make sure that you're not missing out on any available business. Of course, also its integration with LePage.ca. It is tied in with LePage.ca, and any lead that comes off of our national website would go into the CRM as well. We'll talk about optimizing your business, reports and dashboards that are available, and talk a little bit about where we are looking to go with those reports and dashboards, as there is some development that we want to keep working. I mean, one of the joys of this system is that as it is coming from LePage, you have a lot of input into where we go and how we change things. So if you see something and you say, hey, it'd be nice to add this field, or can we have that report? You may be able to, we may be able to simply add it. Of course, lastly, I want to talk about sharing access. This is one of the big issues here where, if you're working in a team, how can you do that? Is it possible to do that? Yes, of course it is. How would that look and what options are available? So we'll talk about those options as well for everybody so that everybody can know what is available to them. So LePage CRM, what is it? Well, LePage CRM was developed by PropertyBase and built on Salesforce.com. It's a big statement there. Salesforce.com is the world's leading CRM software. I know many of the agents who I've spoken to about LePage CRM have told me, yes, they are familiar. Maybe they've worked with Salesforce in the past, played around with it. However, Salesforce is designed for a Salesforce. So not really necessarily for real estate. We found a company called PropertyBase, which took Salesforce and customized it for real estate. So they've changed around the system itself to be customized specifically for real estate needs. What we then did is we worked with PropertyBase to develop LePage CRM specific to our network's needs. So there are things, for instance, in PropertyBase, if you were to get it itself, where you would be doing some double entry, and we're trying to reduce those kind of things, make sure that everything goes as planned. Sorry, I'm just getting a report that there's quite a bit of echo. Maybe let me try to adjust my microphone here. So that in itself is LePage CRM, like I said, developed by PropertyBase, built on Salesforce. And that means a lot of flexibility and a lot of changes that we can make to it. It's a flexible system. So when it comes to things like, hey, could we maybe look at changing this or that, it might be something we can do, which is something you wouldn't have an option with other CRMs. Of course, what it also means is that there are native apps for iOS devices, iPhones, and iPads, as well as Android devices, and some BlackBerry support as well. So it works on multiple devices. LePage CRM offers you an at-a-glance daily planner. What do you need to do today? So you can log in. Once you log in, you'll see immediately what are my tasks, what are my events, what do I need to be doing today? And these can, of course, be set in play by your action plans, which comes in here, which are all about seeding repeat and referral business. These action plan templates come from LePage corporate offices. So we have our corporate brokers here in Toronto. They shared with us these action plans. So these are action plans that have actually been worked, tested. They've been out in the wild for years. They're part of dynamic agent training that is done through the corporate offices. So they have their own special training program where they talk about these action plans. So these are integrated into LePage CRM. You can use them. You can customize them. You can clone them, create your own if you want to have your own, or change what we already have. We have scripts as well to help you optimize conversion. So there are email template supports. For instance, here we have a script for an online lead. So when you get an online lead, rather than having to come up with something on your own, you could simply reply back from the system, and the merge fields will fill out as you see, dear contact first name, You can create your own templates themselves with images, mail merge fields. It's going to have, of course, open tracking, which is a really important one, who's opening and who's not opening your email, auto logging against the contacts, and we're looking for integration with Royal LePage Marketing Center as well. That's something that we're developing that's going to be developed in the future, which will mean you'll have access to the Marketing Center drip campaigns, access to the Marketing Center functionality when it comes to emailing out projects, which is really fantastic. Royal LePage CRM also has social media integration, so you can be connected with your contacts via LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and also Clout. Feel free to Google those if you don't. Clout is one that's a little bit more out there, but this way when you get a contact in there, you can check out their Facebook status real quick. Hey, what's going on with them? Just before you make a call and know what's happening. You can check to see their YouTube account and see, hey, maybe they posted a recent video. If it's a prospect and somebody you don't know, then the system will automatically do searches for their name. So as you see here, Fred Lee is not somebody I have as my contact, so it's doing a search on LinkedIn and finding Fred Lee, the business analyst here at Royal LePage, which means you can do a little bit of customer research when you get a lead in the system. The MLS browser, which we're still in the final stages of developing, puts the information you need right at your fingertips. All of the listings that are on royallepage.ca, including any DDF listing, is going to be directly accessible within Royal LePage CRM. That means you can attach them to your contacts. So let's say 2 years down the line, you want to remember, oh, we had looked at one listing that was really interesting. Let me pull that back up. You'll be able to pull that back up, and you can, if you added notes on the listing that the client gave you, you'll be able to do that, and that's all at your fingertips. Of course, desktop integration makes managing your time really simple. Because we're built off of Salesforce, we have Salesforce for Outlook, which automatically syncs Royal LePage CRM with your Outlook. So, for instance, I just got a reminder because I set myself a task or an event in Salesforce or in Royal LePage CRM to say, hey, I'm doing this webinar now so I can show you what it looks like. And then my phone beeped and said, oh, you have a notification. Well, my phone is synced with my Outlook, and because Royal LePage CRM is synced with my Outlook, then I started getting reminders on my phone of that. At the same time, if you're not using Outlook, we also have email to Salesforce, so you can track from any email program. You can use email to Salesforce to track emails coming in or going out. It's a one-on-one basis, so you'd have to do it yourself. It's a little more manual, but that's actually a good thing because that way you can pick and choose which emails you want to track and which emails you don't. So when you have an email that comes in and they're saying, hey, maybe we could meet Friday, well, I don't need to track that against my contact, but when they say, yeah, we're meeting for this sales presentation, then I definitely want to track that against the contact, and I would send that on using emails to Salesforce. And I'll show you a little bit of that. As I mentioned, being built off Salesforce means you have mobile solutions. You can log activities anywhere at any time. And I'm going to try, we'll give it a shot. I haven't tested it out. Well, I've tested it out, but I haven't tested it out in a webinar. I'm going to try to log in with one of the mobile solutions here and show you what Salesforce Classic looks like a little bit. But what it means is that when you log into Royal LePage CRM on your iPad, on your iPhone, you're actually going to get a different layout altogether. It's going to look like this. Everything's laid out for the touch screen. On Android and BlackBerry devices, you have Salesforce Classic, which I will show you in a little bit. Also, dashboards and reporting give you business intelligence at a glance. I mean, this is what it all comes down to, being able to track your key performance indicators and know, hey, where are my, how many contacts am I currently nurturing? How many buyer presentations do I have coming up? How many listing presentations? How many of my clients have an offer accepted, and how many are going through to close deals, so that you can track your business, know what's going on at a glance, and optimize your business at the end of the day. You want to make sure you know how to, how many appointments does it take for you to get a listing? How many listing, how many listing sessions do you need, or sorry, listing presentations do you need to get an agreement signed? How many agreements do you need to get a close, so you can track your business and know what you'll need and plan for your future? As I mentioned, it's tied into royallepage.ca. So royallepage.ca, any listing that's on royallepage.ca will have a contact the agent form. And when somebody fills this in, you would get an email typically saying, hey, this person is interested in your property. with Royal LePage CRM, you get that email, but it's also included in the CRM itself. So it actually creates a lead automatically in the CRM. So that literally you're getting the power of a national website behind you and pulling in leads to your CRM for you. This is exactly how it goes. Somebody clicks contact this agent, kicks over to Property Base where it says, oh, this person is a Royal LePage CRM user, so let me send them an email to notify them, but also I'll create a contact for them automatically. So let's head over to the CRM itself, and let's start talking about the saving time part of this. As I mentioned, some of the setup and the desktop configuration. So here I am in the CRM. Now, you log in to Royal LePage CRM from the RLP network. So Royal LePage CRM, you log in from the RLP network, and you'll see the CRM login. If you are a CRM user, you'll have the login button. You click on that. It's going to open up in a brand new window for you. Of course, I open it up in advance because I don't want unexpected things to happen in a webinar. Right off the bat, notice the quick start buttons. So these are here for you so that when you log in, if you want to create a contact, add a task, you can do that immediately in there. Notice, as I mentioned, the at a glance. What am I doing today? So I have today a sales follow-up that is due, and I also have, hey, my offer presentation, which is today from 2 to 3 p.m. Notice the help and resources section. So I've created some documents for you getting started, using Property Base on your mobile device, creating and applying email templates. So we do have documentation for you that is Royal LePage CRM specific. It's going to walk you through step by step how you do things like create and apply an email template. Let's go into my setup. So the setup is at the top right. You click your name, you click on setup, and I'm going to go over to my personal information. So this is important because what I'll see here is that I have a username. Now this username is very important because you'll notice it's a number, and this username is required for me to sign into any of the mobile tools. So if I want to go to use Salesforce Classic or Salesforce Touch on my Android or iPhone, then I would need this username. So that's really important. I'm muted. All right. Sorry about that. Somehow I managed to mute my microphone. I must have hit. There's a button on the on my headset here. So if somebody could please type in a question and just confirm that you can hear something now. Hopefully you can. Okay. Thank God. Whew. All right. So here I am in my Chatter profile. As I mentioned, I could add my photo in there. I could add a little bit about me, and any Royal LePage CRM user is able to use Chatter to discuss with other Royal LePage CRM users. So maybe you end up connecting with users across Canada, and maybe it builds a referral network. We'll see what ends up happening. I'm going to go back into my setup here and talk about desktop integration. So as you'll see, desktop integration here. So I clicked my name on the top right and setup. There is Salesforce for Outlook. As I mentioned, Salesforce integrates with Outlook so that when I'm in my Outlook and I am looking at a contact that I have, you'll notice here, John Shrives, I have here the Salesforce tab on the right side, which shows me I can see my activity history with him. I can add this email. Now, I didn't set it up to automatically sync with my Salesforce. I set it up to sync as I go forward. So I would click here to add this email. Let's click on that. and it would sync with my Outlook and say, okay, this email has been indeed added to Salesforce under this contact. That would not work for the Outlook web-based. Somebody was asking about Outlook web-based. No, it would really have to be Outlook. It's installed on your computer itself. Now that said, as I mentioned, if I'm not using Outlook, I can also use my email to Salesforce. This email address is a special email address for me to log emails in Salesforce. So you'll notice down here I have my acceptable email addresses, and I have my Royal LePage email address as well as my Gmail email address. And what happens is when I send an email to this long email address, it's going to reconcile that email against my contacts. So let's have a look at what that means. If I go to my inbox here and I send an email to Mike Vrobel, and I'm going to copy this email address, and I'm going to put it in my BCC field. Now, actually, let's go back. Let's do this to John Shrives, for instance. So I'm going to click John Shrives. I'll BCC email to Salesforce, just doing a test. And that email should take a moment, of course, but will now be tracked against John Shrives. Now you see I received an email saying success. That email has in fact been tracked. And as I log down here, you'll notice email test. Here is that email that I just sent. So even if you're not using Outlook, you can use email to Salesforce. The Salesforce for Outlook is not compatible with Outlook on Mac as far as my understanding goes. However, there is another program that I'm currently investigating that looks to be able to do some of the same integration for Mac users. So Mac users, hold tight just a little bit more. I'm investigating into a solution. As Property-Based, the provider themselves, they use Mac, so we're working with them to establish what exactly the best integration for Macs are. Let me go back into my setup here. So that, as I mentioned, I showed you my Chatter profile. I showed you my email to Salesforce. I showed you also the desktop integration, Salesforce for Outlook, showing you that it can integrate seamlessly into some of the programs that you're already using. And as I mentioned, my email to Salesforce could really work off of any email address. So I could have logged in here my Hotmail account, my Yahoo account, and that way, anywhere where I might get an email from a client, I can just forward that email on into Salesforce, and it'll be logged appropriately, so that I'll still get the history. Now next we get into contacts themselves. So you'll notice in the setup section there is import. And I can import my data from Outlook. I can import it from a CSV file as well. So there is in Royal LePage CRM a native import wizard that is available. And so all I need to do is click Start the Import Wizard. And I could say, for instance, import data from Microsoft Outlook. Now, if you're using the Salesforce for Outlook application, this is actually done for you. You can do it automatically. So I just install the Salesforce for Outlook application. It asks me, do you want to sync all your contacts? And I say, yeah, go ahead. And that way, all my contacts are synced automatically with my Outlook and with Royal LePage CRM. I'm going to go down here to other data source, because what if you're migrating from another CRM program? So let's go up here, and I'm going to choose a file. So I have, let's say, exported my contacts from my other CRM, and I'm just going to pull up my sample contact list and say the contact matching type is by name. Now I could choose by email as well to match up duplicates. You'll notice that automatically Salesforce is trying to match some of the columns that I have. So notice here, first name, last name. Because I had the headers in my CSV file, it's saying, oh, these must be the right fields. So I could go through and further, pick, okay, email account, birth date, referred by, all of those fields. I'm going to click next through these because I have them already being mapped out properly, simply because I created the header rows. I'll go import now, and it's showing me 5 contacts have been created. I click finish, and those contacts have now been imported in my CRM. It may be a little tricky sometimes to get everybody in here. I was working with somebody who was coming from another CRM, and it took a little massaging of the data, but once they're imported, they're imported. Once you're in here, you are in here. And that's going to lead me to actually my first poll, which is, I'd like to know, are you currently using a CRM system? So interesting, here we go, we see that of the people who are currently on this webinar, about 80% voted, 46% are saying, hey, I've never used a CRM system before. And I think that's where the tools like the Outlook for Salesforce comes in really handy. Let's sync everything together and make sure that everything works all as one. And that'll make importing your contacts a lot easier because you're not coming from some other CRM system where you're going, hey, I had this field, I have this field, where are they in here? And that is, every time you're switching CRMs, you're going to find that maybe you had an option for one field here and you have an option for a different field. So you need to kind of, check for that. Now that I have some contacts, let's go through some other ways we could create contacts. Now, if I go to the Contacts tab here, you'll notice I could create new. Oh, sorry. There we go. Have to hide the poll. Thank you. I'm going to click on Contacts, the tab, and New. Shrivens. So you'll notice as I type in the name, it's looking here for potential duplicates. So that way, if I'm typing somebody in that I already have, it's of course going to make me realize, oh wait, I've already added them. Why am I trying to do that again? Let's add them in. Email address. I'll click on Save. And now that contact has been created. I could go in here. I could rank this contact, of course. I'm going to rank John as an A+. Every field you simply double-click. And when I double-click, I can add in his phone number. I think it's 5731. I can add in source. So where he came from. So he was actually one of the few people I got from my direct mail sources. I can add his mailing address, personal information. Now, as I mentioned, there is social integration. So if I click here on the Facebook button, oh, and it's looking for John Shrivens. Of course, it's not going to find John Shrivens. Let's see if it can find John Shrives. Actually, he doesn't have a Facebook account. But I can see other John Shrives. So the John Shrives I'm currently looking for, he doesn't have a Facebook account. But it's going to try to find this person in Facebook. And if I clicked one of these, it would attach it to this contact. I could go to YouTube as well and look for the same contact here. Now this, again, doesn't matter if it's a new contact that somebody's just contacted you off royallepage.ca or it's an old existing contact. You can always come in here and have a look. It was really interesting because I was looking at somebody who had put in a lead, and when I looked up their YouTube account, it turned out that they were a banker who had produced some videos on investment information. And I thought, that's such great research to know before I get in touch with this potential client, to be able to say, hey, I saw one of your YouTube videos, and certainly you seem like the kind of person I'd like to work with. I'm going to click Save down here to save my changes. Let's say John is interested in a property, so he's a potential buyer. I could click down here, New Property Lead, and say that he's currently, let's say, well, we're doing a presentation with him. I could add some comments if he has some. He's looking to buy probably in the next 30 to 60 days. He's looking to buy in Toronto. If I had other information, I could put that in. He's looking for a house, and I could put price, let's say here, $10,000 up to Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. I need a better way for me to know when I'm muted. So, as you saw, hopefully you saw, I added a property lead in for John. He's looking for a house in Toronto, so I could add this and it would be tracked against him, showing that, okay, his minimum price is $10,000, maximum price is $1 million. This is what he's looking for. Now, as I go on, one thing that's neat also about LePage CRM is that you can search via almost any part of the contact. So let's say I do a search for John Shrives at royallepage.ca. Then John Shrives is going to show up. If I did a search for his name, I could do a search for John Starr, let's say. So there's a lot of ways to search in here. Down below, you'll notice the notes and attachments. I can add notes to contacts. I can also attach files. So let's say I have a signed contract that I want to keep track of. Well, of course, I could attach that file here. Or if I, let's say, did something special for him, I could attach it. I can have tasks. So let's create a new task for John, saying that I am going to pop by John's place on March 4th, 2014. I could add some comments if I wanted to. I could even create a recurring series of tasks. So I'm going to do yearly on March 14th. Let's do this every year. I'm going to stop by John's place. No, I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to stop by John's place. And of course, that's going to log in to my, review all error message. Sorry. I need an end date. So up until 2023. Erica's asking about what kind of documents we could upload. You could upload any kind of document in here. It's essentially anything from images. The document uploader is really quite wide open. From PDFs, as you see, I have a PDF. I have an image. You can add office documents, anything at all. Let me go back to John Shrives here. Now down below, you're going to notice I have my open activities here. So I see all my activities coming up. I can create a new event or a new meeting as well. I could also, of course, log a call, do some, send an email. So see all of that, all of my history with him. As I mentioned, I had sent him a test earlier, and since I tracked it using email to Salesforce, it's tracked here. If I send him an HTML email from the system, it will actually be tracked to see whether or not it's opened. I'm not going to do that, but you can see some down below here at the bottom of his contact where it actually shows me if things have been opened or not. I don't believe there is a size limit, but I will double check. Somebody's asking about if there's a size limit to the files. I will double check that. At the same time, keep in mind that all the listings that are on royallepage.ca are going to be actually added in here so that you could just attach the listing itself to this contact as a favorite listing, and then that would stay with the contact even after the listing's sold, and even after it's removed, it's going to stay here for you so that you can keep track of it. Now what happens if I'm speaking with John and John says, hey, I got a good friend, Mike, who's looking for a place. Well, as I'm in John's contact, maybe I'm on the phone with him, I could click on New Contact down here, and I could start typing in, new contact. Of course, it's going to check for the potential duplicates. But when I do that from John's page, what it's automatically going to do is track this as a referral from John. So you'll notice up here, referred by John Shrives. So this way I can get a sense of who are my best referees, and I could build custom reports for this and log essentially and see, okay, who sent me the most referrals in the past 6 months? And when it comes time to reviewing my business and who my A-plus clients are, that might be a big help for that. Now let's look at the other side of things, which is, of course, the mobile side. So how does it work for mobile? And how does that work for contacts? So give me one quick second here. I'm just going to connect. Got to start up. There we go. and do a quick share. So this is, hopefully you all can see that. This is my Android device, and you'll notice this is Salesforce Classic. So I can see my contacts here. And I could go through and let's do a quick search. Sorry, I got a bar in the way here. Mike Vrobel. So there's Mike Vrobel, my contact. I'm going to bring up the contact. And notice that phone is there. So let's click on phone. I can dial. I can send a text message right from here. Let's give Mike a call. I'm going to pull it up just to show you a little bit of how this works. And so let's give it, that's a nice picture of me if you've been wondering. So I'm going to stop that call. When I end the call and go back, you'll notice that it's going to kick me back into my Salesforce and say, should I log that call, yes or no? I'm going to click on yes, and I could log that call, let's say, as, it could be a follow-up, could be phone. Let's say I wanted to need to do a CMA because of that. So I had a call with him. He's saying, hey, let's do a CMA. And I could down here add some comments to that, add myself a new due date, and put that in there. There is also another program called Logger, which is available. And let's have a look at what it looks like in what it would look like for iOS devices. So, give me 1 second. Let me log myself in. Actually, here, let me go to salesforce.com again. I want just Salesforce. You guys are watching my fingers here. Too much pressure. Now, as I mentioned in the profile, you have to get your number if you have to get your username if you want to log in directly. So I went on and got my username. So let me just pull this up, 314-0374. There it is. And log into Salesforce. Now I've set this browser up to mimic as though I were on an iOS device. So notice the way this layout has changed. It's now actually the Salesforce Touch layout, which is completely different than the other layout. So I can go here. It's going to open up my chatter feed by default, but again, I could do the same kind of thing where I open up my contacts. Let's open those up. And as you notice, it's synced automatically, so I just created John Shrivens. It's going to be right there for me. If I clicked on his phone number, which I accidentally did there, it's going to try to call it. Now, somebody was asking about what if I don't have access. Well, one of the neat things is Salesforce Classic actually downloads your database. I can close this now. Salesforce Classic actually downloads your database to your phone. So it actually requires you to put a password in when you log in, so it is quite secure. But what that means is that that database is essentially available offline for you, which is pretty cool. Now let's get into the other side. So showing a lot about saving time here. Contacts, as I mentioned, the setup, showed you a little bit about the desktop config, showed you Outlook for Salesforce, showed you contacts. I'm really glad that the mobile worked well. Definitely will be doing that going forward. But let's move on to the next side, which is on increasing revenue. Of course, that's one of the big parts of this as well. So let's look at these action plan templates down here. Now, as I mentioned, these action plan templates are from Royal LePage Corporate. These are templates that they use in their dynamic agent training, and they shared with us. As you see, we have buyer prospect, past client, seller prospect, sphere of influence plans already set up for you. So let's pull up a past client, a perpetual plan. Now you can create your own templates as well. So you'll notice here, this plan, past client A, has adjust to appropriate marketing list, conversation, 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 set up face-to-face, conversation, conversation, assess motivation, and adjust plan at the end of the year. So this plan is set up for you really just to apply it to a contact, and it's going to remind you automatically throughout the year to have conversations with this person. Now, what if I wanted to add my own pieces to it? Well, I could create my own plan. I'm just going to clone it, and we'll call this past client A, Mike's perpetual with Mike's touch. I'm going to add a new task here and say add to client for life campaign, which is available in the marketing center, of course, and I'm going to put that, let's say, 5 days in. So now, whoops, I'm going to put, it's an administrative task, and my priority is, we're going to put it high. So now that task has been added to this action plan, and it's essentially become my own. If you're working with multiple users in here, you could actually even assign it to other users in Royal LePage CRM. So let's say you have an administrator on here as well, you could add that. Now you can also, of course, remove tasks if you want. You can also have task dependencies. So let's say I say follow-up call, and that task is going to be dependent on this this conversation I have here. It's going to be 1 day after that conversation, I'm going to set up a phone call with them. So I meet them face-to-face, and then the day after I give them a call. I guess maybe that would be more important for an email, but regardless, you can see you can set up your own action plans. These, of course, can be assigned to my contacts. So I'm going to open up John here, and I'm going to click on Create Action Plan and open up my action plan template, past client A perpetual. Actually, let's go here. Let's open up. Now it's doing a search for me, so I kind of need to know what the action plans are, but oh, I forgot to save it. Ah, perfect. That's okay. So I'm going to call this action plan name John. The plan start date, let's say I want to start it on October 1st. Skip weekends. Now you'll notice everything that I could set in that action plan itself by default, I can also go in here and I can change it. It'll also show me a calendar and give me approximate dates when these events are going to happen. So like for instance, I might notice that January 29th, maybe I'm not going to have a conversation with John on January 29th, so I'll adjust that to be 112 days. You can do that as well in there. I can add new tasks here as well, so as a one-off, you can do that. Now again, these action plan templates are available to you. They're here on the left side to remind you of their existence, and of course for you to go in there and check them out and use them. I mean, they're here for you. As I mentioned also, we have email templates. So let's open up John here. Let's imagine that he's an online lead that came in, even though I marked him as a lead from direct mail. I'm going to click on Send an Email, and I'm going to go select Template and find in here my online lead email templates, which are available to you. First contact follow-up email. And I could, if he had the request, it would fill in the address automatically, but since I don't have the request here in front of me, I'm going to put that in manually. Of course, you'll notice it picked from the template, but that doesn't mean I can't add a little personal flair if I want to, say, let's say down here, because I know John, hope the family is doing well. So I can always customize it as I see fit, and then send that out. Now these are, of course, you can set up your own. So if I go to my name at the top right, click on Setup, go into email, you'll notice my templates. I can create my own email templates, which also include the mail merge fields, which can include photos that I upload to the documents here in Royal LePage CRM. And really, I can do a lot with that. Now also, as I mentioned, the leads off royallepage.ca. So when I go to royallepage.ca and I look up a listing, let's see if I can find a quick one. Actually, we'll go. And I look up a listing, you'll notice the Contact This Agent field. If Murray Harris was a Royal LePage CRM user and I click Contact This Agent, then my lead information would be sent to Murray in an email, and it would also be logged in Salesforce automatically. It would save this property, and it would also save my name, my email, all that information directly in Salesforce itself as a new contact. And I could pull that up as a new lead. So that's a little bit about how we're talking about increasing revenue. As I mentioned, increasing revenue by using action plans to make sure that we're, staying in touch, staying on top of our contacts, making sure that, hey, if it's a buyer prospect, we're doing everything necessary to incubate that lead and get them to become a client. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to lose out on clients that are potential. At the same time, we want to automate things. We want to make it super simple. So I don't want to have to go in there and create tasks for everything. The action plans create my tasks automatically. I can, by the way, also mass assign tasks. So let's say I have a bunch of people who, I'm going to go here. I've created a view for my A+ contacts. So these are my A+ contacts. I could create a contact action plan for these 4 people all at the same time. So that means I don't have to, do this one by one. I could do it for all of them. Of course, being tied into royallepage.ca, what that means again is you're really tied into a national website. As the leads come in, they'll be logged into your CRM as well, which is pretty awesome. Optimizing your business is, of course, all about the reports and dashboards. Now, we're working on building some more of these, but right now, well, mine's a little plain Jane, but I'll be able to see my leads by status, how the leads are coming, my contacts by source, where am I getting my contacts from? And of course, I can also go into reports, and I could build my own custom reports as well to do things like track, like I mentioned, how many referrals, how many people are sending me referrals, who are my top referees. So I can track all of that from my dashboards and reports, which of course are very important indeed. Now what's nice about this is that sometimes in Salesforce it can be a little tricky to build these reports, but given that we're all working together on this CRM, when I create a report, it's going to be accessible to every user out there. So all we'd have to do is we really have to take some time to create that referee report, and it'll be available to everybody out there. Lastly, of course, what about sharing? Well, there's a few ways you can share everything in the CRM. There is, for one thing, every contact I have, you'll notice there was the sharing button up near the top here. Let me highlight it for you. So what that means is that, let's say I'm not necessarily working in a team, I'm working as an individual, but I know that somebody else has the CRM. I can click on sharing, and I could add, and I could share this user to, share this person to, let's say, I'll find BB, one of the other learning consultants here, and I'm going to add her, and I'm going to say she can read only. So maybe, I'm sending her asking her to complete a task. Hey, could you send that information over? Now you'll notice, so I've shared it with her. I could also even share it with my office if I wanted to. So if I wanted to share that with the entire group, I could do that. Get to some questions in a second here. Now, at the same time, the task and the calendar work the same way. So I'm going to go up to task and calendar. I could click on share my calendar, and this maybe makes a little bit more sense. I could share this with all the realtors, and this has been created for every brokerage. So the entire Royal LePage Vision Realty, I say, you know what? It's okay. They can see my details and events, so that way when they're trying to schedule a meeting, they'll be able to see that, hey, I'm already in a listing appointment, so let's not bug me that much. Somebody's trying to log in. So your calendar can be shared, your contacts can be shared on a manual basis. At the same time, when you complete the order form, you'll notice there's a second page that mentions, hey, I'm part of a team and I want to fully share with these people. So what that means is you can tell me right off the bat, these 5 people, these 6 people, these 7 people, we're all going to have our own licenses, and we want to share our entire database so that everybody can read everything, everybody can write everything, everybody can interact with everything in my database. And so we're really sharing across the whole thing. Some people have asked me, well, what about sharing accounts themselves? Well, what if I want to allow somebody to access my account? Well, certainly if you're willing to share your username and password, I can't stop you. And, in small teams when you're one person and maybe an assistant, maybe that makes sense. That's up to you, and that's your comfort level. All I'm saying is that if you both want to have a license, you could each get your own individual license, and I can tie them together. So that ties me into my very last poll. Now that I've walked you through a lot of the features of Royal LePage CRM and what it can do. I want to know what is the most important feature of a CRM system. So I'm going to open up this poll for you. You have 5 options. Is it cloud-based mobile functionality? Is it daily task lists with automated planning? Is it the ability to sort and rank your database? Is it the ability to share information across a team? Or is it reporting and custom information? So as you can see, really what a lot of people are looking for is something to say, hey, what do I need to do on a daily basis? The second side seems to be a lot of people saying, hey, it better be cloud-based. I don't want to have to log into a specific computer to get it. And that's the nice thing about this being built off of Salesforce. Salesforce is all about the cloud. So you can access it anywhere at any time. Now that begs another question. What about security? The nice thing is that being built off Salesforce, Salesforce is incredibly secure. If you log in to your Salesforce account from a different computer, from a different location, it's actually going to require you to enter a verification code. Now that can be done via text message or via email. So that way, we're making sure that if somebody in some other country is trying to log into your Salesforce account and, grab information, they're not going to be able to do that because they won't have your verification code in there as well. Here, again, as I mentioned, all the saving time, increasing revenue, optimizing your business. You didn't need the slide to get it. You got it from me. Our offering, Royal LePage CRM, as I mentioned, available on an annual license for agents, brokers, managers. It's $420 per year plus applicable taxes, which is about $35 a month if you average it out. Now that is Salesforce, and that's how they do it. For assistants, we're talking about $300 per year plus applicable taxes, which comes out to be about $20 per month. We know assistants are not going to use this system like agents use the system. Trials, there are a limited number of trials available. At the end of this webinar, there's going to be a survey sent out. I'd appreciate it if you complete the survey where you'll be able to indicate to me that you're interested in that, and I'll get in touch with you about setting up a trial for you. Or you can contact me directly, Mike Vrobel. My phone number is there. My email address is there. Feel free to get in touch with me. If you have further questions, of course, if you want to know what slides you missed while I put up the polls, then feel free to get in touch with me. So I'm going to stop my recording, and I'll get to any questions that you may have.